There's going to be a big courtroom showdown in the next 24 hours between Governor Gavin Newsom and President Donald Trump over the use of the National Guard here in California. Coming up, we'll tell you all about the legal arguments, who has the upper hand, and why Governor Gavin Newsom continues to prop up his presidential campaign using the LA riots. All that and more coming up. I'm Carl DeMaio, chairman of Reform California and a California state representative, and we're still continuing to follow the developing situation in Los Angeles with these riots, these violent protests, all in the wake of the Trump administration's efforts to use ICE to detain criminals and deport them from the United States. Remember, let's be very clear about what this fight is all about. This is about President Trump doing his job, enforcing federal law, and trying to get criminals off the streets of California. That's ultimately at the heart of this dispute. Gavin Newsom doesn't like that. That's why Gavin Newsom and the Democrats have passed a sanctuary state law that says, hey, we're going to shield the criminals. We're not going to cooperate with federal law enforcement. So this is the entire nut of the dispute, is that you, on one side, you have Newsom and California Democrats saying, we don't want to help law enforcement. We will thwart law enforcement. We will obstruct justice as law enforcement, federal law enforcement, tries to get criminals off the street. That ultimately needs to be understood by the voters out here. And if they want to tolerate that crap, well, so be it. But I don't think they do. California voters have shown that they are law and order. They just passed Prop 36. So this is a winning issue for President Trump. What happened was Newsom, in my opinion, and I think the evidence is overwhelmingly in support of this, incited violence. He and other Democrats went out there and started smearing, slandering, libeling ICE agents. And in a moment, I will play a clip proving that that's what he is doing. It's not being reported by the liberal media, but he's using inflammatory rhetoric to instigate his base to take up arms, to go crazy, to mobilize them to the streets. But all the while he's saying, but keep it peaceful. Yeah, that's right. You like my hair? Keep it peaceful. So Trump said, all right, these are violent riots. Let's deploy the California National Guard. The governor was supposed to do that. He failed to do it. No surprise there. And the whole time Newsom is saying, hey, it's a peaceful protest. We are working on this story, and we've uncovered a whole lot, including the funding behind the riots coming from the California state taxpayer. But we still need your help. I'm going to get to the legal case that's going to be heard tomorrow in the next 24 hours, depending upon when you're watching this podcast, in a California courtroom. But go to reformcalifornia.org, reformcalifornia.org, chip in a contribution, sign up at the bottom if you're not already tethered into our growing campaign movement statewide to take back California from the far left. Remember, we're not just about doing this podcast. We recruit candidates for state legislature, for city council, for judgeships. We are absolutely all in to see if we can elect a statewide Republican for the first time in many cycles to some office, whether it's governor, attorney general, secretary of state. We're looking at trying to get a statewide office or two or three or more this cycle. Plus, we've got the California Voter ID Initiative that we're trying to collect signatures on to put it on the ballot to restore the integrity of our elections. So check out that website, reformcalifornia.org, chip in a contribution, sign up at the bottom. We've got our little campaign going on to expose Gavin Newsom before it's too late. We're building a dirt file on this SOB. So what's happening in the California courtroom? Newsom and Attorney General Rob Bonta have filed a lawsuit against Trump. And as part of that lawsuit, they're going to a judge saying, hey, we want a temporary restraining order banning Trump from deploying the National Guard. We want you to order the National Guard to go home. Arguments are set for Thursday, June 12th. Now, Newsom has already suffered a defeat on one part of this legal maneuver, in that Bonta and Newsom asked for an immediate order, and the judge said, no, I'm not going to do that. I want to hear from both sides. I don't want you to read too much in to that initial order. Most of the Republicans and conservatives on social media were excited. They're saying, ha, 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 see, Trump won. No, 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 no. Let me tell you a little bit about this judge. He's a federal judge in San Francisco. Do you need to know more? Okay, yeah, it gets worse. I know, a federal judge in San Francisco. How could it possibly get worse? Appointed by Bill Clinton. Oh, no, but it gets much worse. He's the brother of former Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer. This judge's name is Charles R. Breyer. The apple don't fall far from the tree. Excuse me. He is a diehard liberal. And this initial ruling, in my opinion, is meant just to give the appearance that he's somehow being unbiased and not politicized. Here's my prediction. The judge is going to rule against Trump. Surprise. Like that's going to be a shock. And of course, the liberals will say, see, Trump is a bully. Trump didn't have the authority. Trump broke the law. It will get appealed up to the U.S. Supreme Court, and we'll see where it goes from there. The legal arguments are as follows, and I'm going to try to be as fair as possible. On the Newsom side, Newsom is saying that the president can't just simply call up the National Guard, take over the National Guard. There has to be a request from the governor. Local state officials have to agree that their National Guard should be activated. And there's a lot of gray area here. It's not a slam dunk for Gavin Newsom at all, because the president has the authority to intervene, to see a situation that is out of control, and to take action. He can protect the citizens. He certainly can ask for help and direct help to protect federal agents who are law enforcement agents. But there is some gray area here. And so conservatives who say that this is a slam dunk for Trump, it's not. And liberals who say it's a slam dunk for Gavin Newsom, it's not. There's a lot of gray area here as to whether a state guard as part of the National Guard can just be unilaterally called up by the federal government. And if so, we then move on to what conditions under which would that be possible. And then there has to be evidence on the ground that conditions warrant it. Now, I think that the evidence is there now. You have Newsom and Mayor Karen Bass and all these other Democrats for the past several days saying it's a peaceful protest. There's no violence. But that ship has sailed. People have seen it with their own eyes. And even Karen Bass has declared a local emergency. Now, and the emphasis on the word local. Here's Alex Michelson from Fox 11 LA, and I responded to it. So Karen Bass declares a local emergency for downtown Los Angeles and will enforce a curfew, and that's in downtown LA. This is evidence that, yes, Trump has the basis for claiming that the situation is out of control. I think all of us can agree. The facts are clear. The situation has been out of control. And by the way, I had to be snarky. I said, oh, so the peaceful protest is now a local emergency? Looks like Democrats got bad polling numbers back today. Anyway, I'll get back to Gavin Newsom's speech in just a moment. But the second thing that could happen in court tomorrow is the notion that can Trump, if not using the National Guard, can Trump direct the National Guard or the U.S. military through other statutory authority. And the other statutory authority is something called the Insurrection Act. And this is something that people have heard about for the past several years. Democrats keep saying, oh, the Insurrection Act, it's gold. It's something we should worship. It's something that we should be, utilizing. Okay, now Trump's in charge and they say, oh, Insurrection Act, that's just craziness. It allows for the U.S. military to be called up. Oh, when was the last time the U.S. military was called up for a protest that was described as an insurrection? And so there's evidence of this authority being used to deal with out of control protest, riots, violence, etc. Again, I fully predict that this Judge Breyer, diehard liberal, is going to rule against Trump. There will be no surprise there. The liberal media will, of course, celebrate that as though it's a big deal. It's not. It's predictable, but it will go to a higher court, and I think Trump will ultimately prevail. I think on the political side, though, Trump is definitely prevailing. I have no idea what Democrats are thinking. This is hurting them with the general election voters. But I will tell you, I have had a continued theory here about what Newsom's doing. Newsom's presidential campaign, as I told you in a podcast yesterday, has been in a complete free fall. And so, and the reason why is that Democrats just don't like him. And there's a whole bunch of reasons why they shouldn't like him. You and I both know those reasons because he's a blank hat. But he went a little too moderate with his podcast, and it hurt him with primary Democrat presidential voters. Okay, he has to get through a primary, and those primary voters are left-wing lunatics. And so with this insurrection, with this riot, with this violence, he gets to be the guy taking on Donald Trump. Now, you and I both see this as like, this guy's crazy. He's obviously hurting himself. Yes, with general election voters, I think that's true. But with primary Democrat voters, this is like crack cocaine. This is someone who is absolutely inspiring them because he's taken on Trump. He's standing up to the bully. He's suing Donald Trump. He's going to court in San Francisco with a liberal judge. It's like being, born on third base and thinking you hit a triple. I do have to say that his speech, though, was just outrageous. So he gets up and he does this speech on the internet yesterday where he basically says it's all Donald Trump's fault. You and I both know it's not Donald Trump's fault. This was a cauldron of discontent and misfits. The match was lit by Democrat politicians smearing ICE agents. Part of that, though, was Newsom's comment, his continued comments that ICE agents are bullies, that they're thugs, that they're breaking the law. He even in his speech yesterday said the most disgraceful, libelous, and slanderous thing. And this is incendiary rhetoric. He accused ICE, the federal government, of simply arresting people based on their skin color. Listen in.
If some of us could be snatched off the streets without a warrant, based only on suspicion or skin color, then none of us are safe.
Just based on their skin color, the son of a you-know-what. This is outrageous. This is worthy of him being recalled, but let's not bother. He should resign. He's unfit for office. This guy is corrupt to the core. His character is absolutely the lowest level you can imagine. To sit there and just simply lie, smearing law enforcement officers as racists. But haven't they been doing that all along to even local law enforcement? They're racists. They're brutes. They use force against people based on skin color. They're arresting people just based on racial profiling. This is what Democrats have said from the get-go. This speech was not to calm things down. This speech was to incite more unrest. Because when you tell these agitators, when an elected official, person in authority, says that the federal government is arresting people just based on skin color, if that's true, then all of us should be outraged and heading to the streets and demanding that it stop. And you and I both know it's not true. It's a dangerous lie. It will put the men and women of federal law enforcement's lives at risk. Of these spun up agitators who've been lied to by Governor Newsom and the Democrats. And they'll go to the streets and continue to hurl bricks at these people. Look, you and I both know that Newsom has his ambitions. And so the Democrats needed these riots. Newsom needed these riots for his presidential campaign. But remember, this week was supposed to be when California's state legislature, which I am a member of, was supposed to vote on a budget that is absolutely not balanced because Newsom and the Democrats have given away the store. And they want to quickly get this budget passed because it's a phony budget. It's based on Enron-style accounting gimmicks. They don't want people focused on what they're doing with the budget because they're trying to get a budget in place quickly so they can continue to get their paychecks. It's part of a scam. And then they're going to blame the budget deficit a couple weeks or months from now on Donald Trump once the federal budget is adopted. Because the state budget gets adopted June 30th, the federal budget gets adopted September 30th. So they're trying to say, well, we had a budget that was balanced back in June, but now it's not balanced anymore because of Donald Trump and the federal budget. So they're feeding CNN the narrative. Trump preparing large-scale cancellation of federal funding for California, sources say. Well, this is actually true. And the truth is that, hey, if California is not complying with federal law, they're no longer eligible for federal funds on a lot of these pots of money that are in the federal budget. That's just the law. That's federal law. That's something Democrats and Republicans over the last 40, 50 years have voted on, that there are conditions on the receipt of federal aid. It's clear that Trump has said if you give money to undocumented for free health care, for example, in the Medicaid program, you're going to get a cut. You're going to get a ding, a penalty for doing that. And rightfully so, because we don't want federal dollars or even state taxpayer money going to people who are not here legitimately. We want to take care of citizens first. So what does Newsom say? Newsom responds to President Trump's proposed cut to California funding by suggesting to withhold federal taxes. Again, he says something provocative. Newsom can't withhold federal taxes because you don't pay your federal taxes to Gavin Newsom. Thank God. He would have, siphoned off a bunch long ago if that were the case. You and I and corporations and everyone else, when you pay your federal taxes, you pay it directly to the federal government. It's an individual to federal government transfer. It's not an individual to state of California to federal government transfer. So this guy is gaslighting once again. He's doing it just to provoke a fight with Donald Trump because, again, he's running for president. Everything he's doing seems completely insane to you and me, but it makes sense when you realize this is all politics. And the media is pretending like this is a righteous fight on his part. No. Bitch, please. This guy is only interested in power and ambition. All of this turmoil, the riots, this nonsense about don't pay your federal taxes, and God forbid someone takes up his idea and says, well, Gavin Newsom said it was right to do, so I'm not going to pay my federal taxes. Well, get ready to pay a whole bunch of penalties. As much as I don't like paying federal taxes, and I have said before, like, hey, if you're wasting my money, why bother? I understand the law. If I don't like what they're doing with my money, the best way to fix it, the only way to fix it, is to vote. Elections have consequences. And so Newsom doing this, again, puts people in jeopardy financially and legally. It's not at all legitimate or possible. But he's trying to set up the budget narrative for later on this summer when his budget deficit finally becomes apparent through his fault, so that he can shift the blame and say, they took the money. I remember when I told you not to pay your federal taxes? Well, this is why they took your money and they ran and they left us with a deficit. It's like the devil complaining about sin. He caused it. Newsom caused the deficit. And so this guy is going to continue to gaslight. That's why at Reform California, we exist. We exist to be his mortal enemy, his barometer of truth, the spotlight that shines on all of his failures. Go to our website, reformcalifornia.org. Sign up so that you're tethered to our growing movement. If you're not signed up, you're not going to get the voter guide when the election comes. You're not going to get the plain English description of the ballot measures. You're not going to get information on all the judge candidates and school board candidates. We actually vet all the candidates on your ballot so you can know who to vote for. You can cast it at least an informed ballot. But we're also leading that fight to get voter ID on the ballot in 2026. So go to that website, sign up, be tethered into our growing movement. If you can, please chip in a contribution. We'll give you an update once this judge finally rules on the lawsuit that Newsom and Bonta have filed against Trump over the National Guard in our next episode. Until that time, I'm Carl DeMaio, Chairman of Reform California. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. But before you click away, please subscribe to this channel and click that notification button so you get updated when we post new episodes. Plus, like this video and share it with your friends so that we can help spread our message across the state. Reform California with Carl DeMaio is paid for by Carl DeMaio for State Assembly.